Great, here we go. It's Thursday, it is Thursday night. This is going to be a fun member spotlight. And yes, Bev was just giving us the rundown on how to say her name. So great, Meteyer.
Meteyer.
Meteyer. Oh,
Yeah.
I still messed it up.
1M. Yeah.
Well, this is great. You know, Bev is a new triathlete, and it's going to be really neat to hear her story of getting involved in triathlon. And she's also up here in St. George, and we're both helping support the race. So that's sort of neat as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bob for the official introduction.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it. And welcome, Bev.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you on tonight. And I'm just so impressed with how you got started. And for everybody out there, Bev joined the club in July of this year, July of 2022, did her first triathlon ever in August. It was August 21st, that was her club triathlon.
Yeah.
And then she jumped right into Pumpkin Man, which is like arguably one of the toughest sprints you'll ever have, starting in Lake Mead and going up to Boulder City. So that's cool. So not only did she do Pumpkin Man for the first, sanctioned real triathlon, other than our club race, but she podiumed on it. And that's fantastic. And then all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, already, Bev has signed up for Oregon, 70.3. So, I mean, talk about moving on up. How you doing, Bev?
I'm great. Thanks, Bob.
And, the question that I have to ask you to get started is you started your triathlon career at 69?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, most people our age aren't supposed to be. We're supposed to be doing pickleball and golf. Come on,
I know.
What prompted this?
So I have been a swimmer with the Las Vegas Masters for 19 years. And when COVID hit, the pools were not open the normal hours that they used to be. We used to start at 5:30 in the morning. And my swim coach, who is 85 years old, I don't know if you know him, Vic Hecker. He's pretty famous.
I don't know him.
He's won Coach of the Year multiple times. So anyway, he got frustrated and said, I'm done with this. I'm retiring. Mm-hmm. So the whole group kind of disbanded a little bit. We did workouts here and there, but it became boring and it was just not fun anymore. So two of my lane mates happened to be triathletes, and they had just done Salem, Oregon this past summer. And they did so well and they were so happy. I looked at all their posts and I went, oh my God, I am really missing out. So I went out and I bought a 20-year-old bike in July, and I know how to run. So I just started practicing running, and obviously I know how to swim. So that's how I got started.
And that's fun that other triathletes got you into it. So they're, misery loves company for one, but it's fun that you said you saw how much fun they had at Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when I first bought that bike and I went out and rode it, I remembered the freedom that comes with riding a bike, because I rode a bike when I was a kid, but then I haven't ridden a bike again, except maybe I had a mountain bike for a little bit. And it's just so exhilarating and freeing to ride a bike.
Oh, you absolutely. It's like there's no feeling like it, and it's great that you rediscovered that. Yeah. And you're all over one of John Mercer's mantras for this year was enjoy the journey. And you obviously are enjoying the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you mentioned about rediscovering the bike, because a lot of times we forget how much fun it is to be out on a bike. And that's neat that you've rediscovered that, and as you prep for a triathlon.
Yeah. So it took me like one time to learn how to do the clipping. I remember the first time I rode my bike, I was a little nervous, and I went down the River Mountain Trail on the west side of town. And I got back and I was so happy that I hadn't fallen or anything. And I got to my car, I was leaning the wrong way and I couldn't unclip my left foot, and I just plopped right over.
Yeah.
everybody has either done that or they are going to do that. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That has happened. And you got it out of the way early. So
Got it
you're
out of the
fine.
way early, and then knock on wood, I haven't done it since then.
And just for future reference, you can set the tension on that. If it's too tight, you can.
They're
You can
set
listen.
really low. I had a bike fitting, a professional bike fitting, and I had him set it really low.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
That's
Bev,
cool.
as your friends got you into the sport, did you how did you pick your first event to target?
Well, I knew I wanted to do the Las Vegas Tri Clubs event because it was a small event.
Mhm.
So I only had 3 weeks to train, and I knew I was not going to be in shape, but I wanted to do it anyway. So I did okay. I actually did really good on the swim. And then I thought I was doing okay on the bike, but everybody was passing me. So by the time I got into doing the run, Matt had already finished the whole thing. And I was exhausted, and it was windy. And so I ended up walking halfway up the hill on the run. And then I jogged back and I caught one of the last people. I think his name is William, and he had had hip surgery. And so I kind of ran the rest of the way with him, and we both crossed the finish line at the same time. So that was fun.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that was a windy day. I remember that one.
Yes.
And also, Bev, that hill climbing out of, on the first run, when you come out of the transition area, you turn left and go up the hill.
Yeah.
That's no joke. So, I mean, that's pretty normal walking up that thing.
I can run up it now, though.
Yeah.
Good for you. And then the bike is it's not a flat bike either. So,
No.
you got started on a pretty tough course.
Well, my friends, Sandy Larson came to me after the race, and she said, "You look like you might be in my age group." And then we started talking, and we became best friends, and I started riding with her. And we go out to Villa Ridge near Desert Shores, and we ride up that hill. So I was good at riding up the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you. That's awesome that you jumped on the hills right away.
Yeah.
Well,
And shout out to Sandy. She is just wonderful.
Sandy's
to ride
awesome.
with.
Yeah. All the people, I have to say, all the people I have met, every single one of them that I've met from the Tri Club have just been fantastic supporters. I went out to Red Rock one day, and Hillary was there, and Sandy was sick and she couldn't go. And Hillary was training for a big race, and she still took the time to go with me. And she was doing this thing with her hand, and I'm like, "What are you doing, Hillary?" And she said, "I'm pointing out the things that are in the road that you could run into."
Yeah.
So I thought that was so nice of her.
And Hillary is one of my heroes as well.
Yeah,
I love
great.
riding with Hillary as well.
Yeah, and so all the people have just been phenomenal. I just can't say enough good things about them.
we have
Even
a
the really experienced people like Matt. I mean, they all treat you like you're just another friend. Like it's not like they're way up here and you're way down here.
That's I'm glad you actually experienced that. It's one thing that I love so much about the club is that everybody's an equal. I mean, there's nobody has any status higher than anybody else. It's like we're all club members.
Yeah.
That's
what
just a wonderful club.
What I was going to say, even as you talked about your first race, you were already engaging with people as you're going along with the race. This is so neat to hear how engaged you already are. And we've got such a wonderful community, and this is really neat to see the connections you've had. Okay, so now let's continue on your journey after that race. What did you have in your sights?
So at that point, because I was so new and I knew literally nothing, I went out and I bought a new pair of shoes, and I had the lady at the running store help me pick out what shoes to get. And then after talking to Sandy, I figured out what TriDot was, and I joined TriDot, and I asked if I could have the same coach Sandy did, who is JoJo Namey. And luckily she had one spot open, and she said I could have that spot. So JoJo became my coach. And then she kind of told me a lot of things about what I needed to do. And then I don't really have a nutrition background, but I've always been focused on nutrition. So I knew I needed a nutrition coach. So that's when I hired Lisa Ferrara to be my nutrition coach. And she's been really, really helpful. A lot of people might not know that a triathlon is a lot more than swim, bike, run. It's nutrition, it's strength training, it's head games or mental. There's just so much involved in triathlons that go way beyond swim, bike, run.
Well, you figured out a whole lot in a short amount of time. As far
I
as
know,
knowing that.
a
Go
month
ahead.
ago, I didn't even know what a cassette was until I had to get a trainer, and I had to figure out what the cassette was.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is the fact that you went right away. It's like, hey, swim, bike, run is one thing, but you got to fuel, you got to eat right. There's a whole lot more to it than swimming, biking, and running.
Yeah.
And I mean, not it takes a lot of people a long time to figure that out. I know I was one of them.
Well, and I
So,
think that one quality that you have that I think that's great for people to hear about as they get into the sport is you're okay asking questions. And
Yeah.
by asking those questions, you're getting information yourself, but this is really great for people to hear. It's okay to not know certain things, especially when you're new to the sport. And we do talk a lot of acronyms and names for things that we just think everyone knows, but that's not the case.
I know. I had to look up, I'm doing the Tri-Dot pool school, and you have to do some dry land exercises. And one of them had SLD, and I had to look up SLD is single leg drill.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's so, like John said, there are so many acronyms. I had to look up EVF, or early vertical forearm, and all these other weird, acronyms that you never heard of before.
yeah.
Hey, I have a question for you too. It's like,
Okay.
I'm real interested in this. Is what is it that you're really smart? Obviously, you're jumping on a whole lot of questions right away. What big ahas did you realize from the coaching that JoJo gave you and Lisa Ferrara? Was there anything you went, oh my goodness, I didn't know that, and that it's huge? Do you have any of those moments?
Well, I probably did. I can't think of any right off the bat. I know a couple of the mistakes I have made, like on Pumpkin Man, I went out too fast in the bike, and then I passed a lot of people up that first hill, and I went, wow, I'm doing really good. And then we got to on the way back, and people started passing me, and I went, oh, maybe I am not doing so good.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was another. You didn't make a mistake. You had to learn it. Keep some fuel in the tank.
Yeah, I know how to negative split in the swimming, but the biking is another story.
Yeah.
I'm
still trying to get that through my head. Don't worry.
Yeah, so I don't know so much about aha moments as so much as I'm realizing some of the things that I'm doing wrong that I'm trying to fix. So.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. Well, let's jump into talking about Pumpkin Man then. You brought that up. So you go to Pumpkin Man, and obviously there was a little bit of wind happening. And when did you find out that the swim was going to be canceled? When you got there, or did you find out ahead of time?
Yeah, no, it was when I got there, and I was a little bummed because I knew my swimming was my strong suit.
Right.
And I was actually going to do it without a wetsuit, so I wouldn't have to take the time to peel my wetsuit off, which I went Thursday and swam, and it took me 9 minutes to get out of my wetsuit. So I said, maybe I better not do it with my wetsuit.
Especially such a short swim.
I know. But in retrospect, it was good that we didn't do it, because I barely made my plane to go to Sacramento. And if we had done the swim, I wouldn't have made it.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And the water was warm too.
The water was very warm. It was not 74 degrees.
No.
I am a wuss, and I need water to be 80 degrees. And I swam on Thursday before the Saturday race without a wetsuit, and I was fine. So.
Well, I love just the way you're talking about this, because obviously the swim is your strength from your background. and yet you get there and you find out it's not going to happen, and yet you did all this work for it. Well, how quickly were you able to change the mindset from, oh, no swim to, okay, now I got to focus on starting on the bike?
Well, you know what? That's a great question, John. And one of the things that JoJo did teach me is that nothing ever goes as planned. And so you have to go with the flow. So I just switched to thinking, okay, what's good about not having the swim? And the good thing is I don't have to do the transition. I put on a camelback, so it takes a little bit longer for me to do the transition from the swim to the run. So, or swim to the bike. So for me, it was a shorter transition. So I was happy with that. And I was going to be dry, so I wasn't going to be cold in the wind.
Right.
So I was fine with not having the swim.
That's a great way of adjusting, and that's exactly what you need to do, is just shift the focus, and now this is what's in front of you, and this is what the start line is. So walk us through starting now in that sort of rolling start. What was that like?
Well, once again, I started talking to the people around me, because the way they stage it, you're pretty much with people that are your age group. So I saw one lady that was my age group, and I started talking to her, and she had done 120 triathlons, and I went, okay, she's probably going to beat me. And then this little lady came up, and she had a 70 on the back of her leg. So I knew she was 70 years old. And she's like 4'11". She couldn't weigh 100 pounds. And she started talking to me and asking me questions about my bike. And she said something that I didn't understand. And so I knew she was very experienced. So we started up, we all did the rolling start, and I did well on the first hill. And I was actually ahead of both of them. And then both of them ended up passing me. And that's when I knew that she was going to be super fast. And then when we got up to Boulder City, and I had just gotten on the run, and this lady, her name is Jo Garuccio, she was finishing the run. She did that try in an hour and 36 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
She's 70 years old.
That's great.
So we sat together on the bus and we got our picture taken, and she's got a health background, and she's a phenomenal person. She knows everything about everything. And she is a coach for the guy that actually won the race, a little kid that won the race. So it was really nice meeting her, and we exchanged numbers. She's from Salt Lake City, and it's just really nice to know all these things that these people who have done triathlons forever know that I don't know yet.
Well, and again, I love this, that you're getting into, picking the brain of someone like that. And I see this excitement in you in terms of not only just having that conversation, but then the information that you're bringing back to help yourself out in moving forward. So this is really neat to hear how you're approaching this. So what did you think of the hill?
The hill was fine. I had ridden it several times, but without the wind. The wind was the determining factor. I mean, I had a camelback with 2 liters of electrolyte water in it, and I went through that whole entire 2 liters on the bike. And so I had to grab one of my bottles for the run, which I hadn't planned on taking a bottle with me, but I ended up doing it. So that was a little bit harder, especially riding through the wash, because the wash is a little bit bumpy. And that part of it was actually harder than going up Nevada Way. I had been up Nevada Way before, and that was not that difficult. It was, it's when it gets bumpy. I couldn't get into aero position one single minute. So I don't know, I used my tri bike. So after I got my road bike, I found a really good bike shop right around the corner from me, and he had a sale on tri bikes, and he said, this one would be perfect for you. And so I bought it, and it's a really nice bike, and I love it. And so I used that in the race, even though people said your road bike would probably be better. But I read a lot of posts from some of the people that said they were faster on their tri bikes.
Oh, I definitely was.
Anyway, I love my tri bike. I'm glad I had it. But I couldn't get into the aero position at all. And I'm still a little bit wobbly doing
And
that.
why was that, Beth? Bev, was that
Because of the wind. Yeah. I was afraid I was going to get blown off my bike.
Mhm.
Well, that's pretty healthy fear. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's something you get used to, but still, it's better to be safe.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a fun race. It was good to see all the people out there and know that I could ride with a group of people without worrying about running into them. And most of the people were good about saying passing on the left.
Mhm.
Some of the younger kids or faster people just blew by me and didn't say anything, but most of them said passing on the left.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's great. And so you get to the top of that hill. It's a longer, it's a 20K bike ride, but it's still a longer 20K because of all the uphill, and you had the headwind. So it really started even
yeah.
the work started even earlier. You get off the bike. What was the run like?
So my transition was really good. Alexa was there and she was cheering me on, and she said, I couldn't even get a picture. You were so fast through the transition. So I was happy that she said that. And luckily the run was downhill starting out. So I was fine on the run. I didn't have any bike legs or any issue with that. But my coach said, go out, find your pace and push it on the last mile and then really finish strong. So I'm like, oh gosh, the end of the race is uphill, gonna be tired. So I probably did it backwards. I didn't at the end. One thing that I did notice after some people took pictures of me is that I have much too forward a lean on my run. So I'm working on fixing that. But aside from that, the run was relatively comfortable.
Had you done bricks before as far as running off the
I
bike?
have. So, but their short ones are like 20 minutes.
You're right. You're telling your legs what they got coming.
Yeah. And I was fine with that. It's just,
that's awesome.
I actually have a chiropractor as well. And I mentioned that to him. And I said, I read something that said it's because my hip flexors are tight. And he said, yes, but remember, you've been leaned over on a bike for 12 miles. So there is going to be some forward lean, but I'm working on, getting better at standing up. So John, I know you're a fantastic runner. Maybe you can put on one of those clinics like you did with the open water swim on running form and kind of give everybody some tips on how to stretch out and, how to go about doing a 5K run.
Oh, I love it. And actually we've got that on our list to do. And so that's coming up pretty soon. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. All right. So now you're coming in, you get that last hill coming up for the run and you see the finish line. I mean, how did you feel?
I felt pretty good. I pushed as hard as I could, but when I looked at the video, I'm like, you weren't going very fast. But I ended up doing better on the run than TriDot predicted, and that my coach was happy. So, I was okay with that.
That's great.
And what did it feel like whenever you realized, how did you realize that you were on the podium? Did you check your
well,
your finish?
I thought I had seen two people that were my age group and both of them had passed me. So I thought the best I could have done was third. But then when they printed out the slip and I saw second, I went, oh, this is great. That girl must not have been in my age group. So.
Man, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel? How'd you feel?
That made me feel good. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the things about starting at our age is that there's not too many people in the field. So you have a pretty good chance of doing well.
But I found out it doesn't get any easier. So with the different age groups. So it's like, congratulations again.
Well, look at Joe Garuccio. I mean, next year I'll be 70 and I'll be in her age group.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Doesn't get easier.
Oh, I love it. So now what do you have your sights set on for? I think we started with the idea that you're doing Oregon, huh?
Yeah. So Salem, Oregon is a 70.3. And the farthest I've ever run before is a 10K, which is 6.2. So I have a number of months of training to get there. So I'll probably do an Olympic distance somewhere in between. And maybe I might even do, I think December, there's a Santa run or something that might even be a half. And I might just do that first.
Are you
I
still,
rediscovered, go ahead, Bob.
are you still coaching with JoJo, and has she changed gears, for
Yeah.
getting you ready for a 70 point?
Yeah, so with Try It Out, you put in your races and you say which are the A races, which are the B races, and they know the timing of them. So they know I'm doing this one in July. And so they're already gearing up to doing the longer distances for that. So
Very good. That's fun.
I love it. So when you look at your training now, as you get ready for a 70.3 versus when you just started, I mean, how do those compare and contrast?
well, they're longer, obviously longer. I also have a love-hate relationship with my trainer because I swear to God, that thing has a mind of its own. One day I set it and I told it to do the workout, and I was pushing down as hard as I could on the pedals. I had it in the lowest gear possible and it was still not going. And I thought, how can this be? I'm in the lowest gear. And it's because the trainer has its own mind and it somehow adjusted. So, but anyway,
I love it.
now that we're getting in winter, it's going to be a little bit harder to do the outdoor bike. And so I'm going to have to do my trainer. So I had to find a seat that's comfortable. I've gone through several seats, but I don't know.
Well,
my tri bike is just more comfortable than my trainer.
Oh, that's good. Well, I love it when the technology works, and we can certainly get a lot of value at that. But boy, when it doesn't, it sure is irritating.
So you don't use your tri bike in the trainer. You use a separate.
No, I use my road bike in the trainer.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll probably have to switch and put my tri bike on the trainer, but.
And also, just as an aside, I have a whole bunch of seats you can try. Different seats.
Okay. Yeah, somebody told me there is also a place in town that does custom seats. So, I have the same seat on my tri bike as I do on my trainer, and the two feel totally different. And I'm sure
the geometry is different. Your position is much different.
So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Well, you're figuring it all out. I mean, you're pretty far ahead for having started up 6 months ago. That's still amazing.
And so is there a group of you going up to Oregon 70.3?
Yeah, so Sandy and I are doing 70.3. We're trying to enlist a couple other of my friends to do it, but my friend that did it last year already has something else booked. And my one other friend, who's 5 years younger than me, she barely finished Sacramento. She had 2 minutes to spare before the cutoff. So she said, I don't know if I'm even going to run anymore. So I'm not sure if she's probably not on board with that. But who knows? We can probably recruit a couple other people to do 70.3 in Salem.
I registered yesterday for it.
So you did? Awesome. Okay, well then we can train together.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I love your approach because triathlon, we always say it's an individual sport, but we don't do them alone. And I just see you even building, a circle of friends around this that really makes it a lot of fun. And, you get a lot of information that way as well.
Yeah. So much information.
I never asked you, what was your favorite swim distance that you did when you were doing swimming?
Believe it or not, it was 50 yards.
Oh,
my very best. I'm a pure sprinter, and I was good at sprinting. I was always in the top 10 at nationals, but 50 is, I'm like a cheetah. I can go really fast and then I die. So to me, a 200 was long distance. So now I'm having to re-gear here to doing like a mile. And
slowing down.
Interesting. Yeah. Have to learn to pace.
Well, it's that sprinter's mentality that's just tough and just ready to go. So I that's awesome. Well, Bev, this has been so much fun hearing more about you getting into triathlon and hearing where you're going. I really like the approach you're taking. I mean, you really epitomize the enjoy the journey approach to this. So this is really great to learn more.
Yeah, I love your enthusiasm about getting started on this. That's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, well, I
Wonderful.
think people feed off of that type of thing. And if you're around people all the time that are constantly enthusiastic rather than complaining, then you're going to have a better experience.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
just
Well
have
said.
to hang around with all the enthusiastic people.
That's right. And you're one of them. So
Yep.
this is great. This is great to have you a part of the club and really contributing that way. So this is wonderful.
Yep.
Bev, thanks so much. We'll see you. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. You probably will, because I'll be at the finish line.
All right.
So
That's right. Will you be at the finish line on Saturday as well, Beth?
no, I'm going home on Saturday. But I thought about actually volunteering for the kayak, but they said you had to have 12 hours of instruction before you could do that. And I kind of said maybe another day.
Yeah.
That's
But
huge.
I can't roll a kayak yet.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, and this Sand Hollow, you never know what you're going to get. But Bev, this has been so great. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
thanks
me,
for being
John and
on.
Bob.
Thanks for being on, and congratulations again on your incredible start. in
Oh,
triathlon.
thanks. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
Night, everybody.